A very good afternoon, everyone, or evening or morning, depending on where you are joining us from today. It's fantastic to have you here.
It certainly is. Please do just type in the chat and let us know where you are. It's always fun to know whereabouts in the world you are, because we know, of course, Language Show Live goes beyond the confines of the United Kingdom. So it's always great to know where people are from. And don't be shy. Oh, hugs and hot chocolate from Belgium. Oh, I'm not at all jealous. Really wonderful to have you here, Ollie, with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really delighted that you're here with us.
Oh, wow. Gosh.
Fantastic.
Lots of really interesting people from interesting places. Well, I'm in Bristol in the United Kingdom, and Judith, you are in London,
I'm
aren't
in
you?
London, yes, London, United Kingdom. And we have got right away a little warm-up activity for you. So here, our first question, over to you, Krista, is...
Absolutely. This session is about grammar and use of authentic materials, but we want you to, a bit of audience participation is always a good thing. So where is the grammar in this? Now, you might pick one of these pictures, you might use all three, but just think for a moment. Oh, we've already got answers coming in. I love it.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
Yeah, just think about it. You can go for the obvious, you can go for the obscure, but just fill the chat, please, with what you think. We've got 4 or 5 people with the same response so far. Not judging, just loving your, got language services specialists. Louise, I think, oh no, hang on. We've got, it's not Louise, it's somebody else. Sam, just saying that present tense verbs. We've got Annie saying être verbs in the past tense in French. Brilliant, brilliant. So it sounds like we've got lots of French speakers. We've got Irina, beautiful name, saying quantity. Lots of interesting things. We know the value and point of grammar, but it's always really, really important to make sure that we do something like this to get our students thinking maybe about grammar. And if we do this ourselves from time to time, as we are doing here, Ollie's come up with prefixes and suffixes. I love it. There's so much you can do. These are just photos from the BBC Wildlife competition, Photographer of the Year competition. Take some of those, get them thinking. Of course, then you can recycle them for any spoken activity that you're doing too. But really, really good fun. Please do keep putting things in the chat if you want to. Samantha's put Ser versus Estar, which is lovely, lovely, lovely. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Well, thank you for your participation. This is us. That's Judith. I'm Krista. It's lovely to have you with us, and thank you for joining us for this lunchtime session at Language Show Live this year. It's great to be here.
So we are going to invite you to think about grammar again, and the idea of grammar being all around us. So you're going to hear a little story that Krista and I wrote, and we would like you to think carefully, how does it make you feel what you're hearing? How might your feelings change over the course of the story? How do you respond to it? And did anything seem out of place? And if so, why? Can you justify your answer? So here we go. Let's hear the story.
So, once upon a time, there was a person who had a big, brown, shy dog and a beautiful, small, black, loud, hand-wound clock on the side of a building. The clock happily tick-tocked as the person and the dog set off on their daily walk. The start of the new year brought roadworks, doesn't it always? And the usual walk was not possible. Instead, a different route had to be found. Now, they would pass the clock not at the start of their journey, but the end. The clack-click of heels and the patter-pit of paws could be noticed as they walked past the loud hand-wound black small clock's tock-tick. How curious a walk it was today, but a walk nonetheless.
So over to you. How did this make you feel? Have you noticed anything that comes to mind?
Don't be shy. Adele, yes, it was very hard to read. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah,
Well
great.
done, Annie. Yeah. Well done, guest.
Ah, yeah, you felt uneasy. Yeah, so there was something about it where you felt, ooh, this doesn't sound quite right, or this doesn't feel quite right.
Yeah.
Too many adjectives. Yeah, great. Yeah, they were
Absolutely.
distracting. Yeah, sometimes in the wrong order. Yeah, fantastic. Great. Well, thank you so much for your participation. We won't reveal the answers to you. There are actually rules about this. So in terms of adjectival order in English, as you might know, or it might be an opportunity to explore further. And also the reason why the clock tick-tocks and not talk-ticks. So a really interesting element also to think about the parallels between languages. So, you know, if you're teaching another language and you want to bring in English as well and see how does this work in one language, in another language? And also, how is it that sometimes we just feel something? We might not know the rule yet, but we do sense that there's something out of place. So thank you so much. Oh, excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jessica. And Russian clocks go tick-tack. Fantastic. Excellent. How brilliant to know this. Thank you. So very briefly, so our focus today is on the role of grammar in context. Now, Canale and Swain thought about the way in which we develop what is at the core, right, when we teach languages, and that is to give our learners the tools so that they can communicate. So we want learners ultimately to be able to speak, to write, to listen, and to read in the language that we are teaching. Now, what they devised is these elements as part of this communicative competence, and we have flagged here for you grammatical competence. Now, grammatical competence, according to Canale and Swain, is not only competence in verbal and non-verbal linguistic code, but it also includes vocabulary, morphological, semantical, syntactical, phonetic, and orthographic knowledge. And as you can see here in this Venn diagram, it sits very closely with the other competencies. And those are socio-linguistic competence, so using appropriate language in a given context. Strategic competence, so how to deal with a situation where language breaks down. So how do we do, what do we do then? How do we navigate to still be able to communicate? And then discourse competence, which is the ability to decode text through combining rules, so form and meaning. Now, Michael Byram and colleagues thought then about this additional competence that is really crucial, and that is intercultural competence. So using language in different cultural contexts for the purpose of communication. And as you can see, they all fit together, they work together to allow learners to then communicate. And we want to talk to you today a bit more about grammar in using authentic texts. So a little activity for you now, and thank you so much for being so active in the chat. It's really fantastic. We've got a little gap fill activity here for you, and this is about thinking about exploring languages and exploring the world. We have got here 3 quotes. Some of you might be able to spot where they're taken from.
You might think this is a bit random for a Friday lunchtime, but just have a little think, have a little go with what you feel maybe drops in there, and just let us know what you think.
Have a little think. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. So the first one is in the English context. Yeah. It's taken from the National Curriculum for Languages. Excellent.
Nice.
Then
So
the second
Adele
one.
and Annie and Gemma have been really brave.
Yeah, fantastic. Really good. Excellent. Yeah. And the first one is fantastic. Yes, the first one is learners must understand and respond to spoken and written language from a variety of authentic resources. The next one, literature fires. Do you know where this is from?
It's so beautiful, Les.
Oh, excellent. That was really, really fast. Loads of answers. Yeah, so to draw out, so do you want to give the answer, Christoph, where that quote comes from?
Yeah, literature fires imagination and creativity. It just makes me so excited as I read that, and can support learners' emotional and mental well-being. And that's from the Curriculum for Wales, of course, with specific kind of reference to international languages, really, which is always a joy to read and experience. So the third statement here, real stimuli in the target language can provide what? And what do you think?
First one starts with a C, and the next one is an M, but you've given loads of fantastic ideas that would as well just fit perfectly.
Well, we've got motivation and authenticity. Nice.
Yes, motivation is the last one. Curiosity. Oh, fantastic. That's a brilliant one. And that goes in that direction. Curiosity and challenge. Yeah. Challenge and motivation. And that is from, Krista, do you want to reveal?
Yes, absolutely. That's from the Curriculum for Excellence in Scotland, the 2+1, languages requirement, really. So the first statement came from the National Curriculum in England, the second statement from the Curriculum for Wales, and then that third statement from the Curriculum for Excellence in Scotland, their 2+1 strategy. So yes, brilliant. Aren't they joy to have in that context? Just wonderful.
Yeah, and we want to really here highlight these elements of creativity, of motivation. And I think also one particular one, how it supports learners' emotional and mental well-being. If they feel engaged, if they feel curious about what is coming, if their imagination is spurred, then that really supports them. It's sort of a holistic view of learning and of education.
And of course, grammar is never perfect. We want our learners to know it, to be able to use it, and they want to use it like this second image here, this kind of perfect Jenga wooden block kind of stack. And yet we know that this pursuit of perfectionism within students and learners, even us perhaps at our age, as practicing professionals, we perhaps are anxious about grammar, and we don't always portray it in the great light, in that we're saying, oh, well, we're doing grammar today. And kind of pull a face where students kind of go, oh, or they say, oh, grammar, we're doing this, and they believe it has to be perfect. We actually, yes, absolutely. Ollie said perfection is destructive. You're absolutely right. And what we want, of course, is grammar to be used, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And we don't want that. We would love it to be very good and understandable and clear. But so long as students are using it, then they're going to get better at it. When we fail or make errors, we learn so much more. It's so enriching. When students say something that's not quite right, we can stop and unpick it, not to humiliate or embarrass. And so we're never going to maybe get that Jenga block there. It's going to kind of be a bit like, we take a bit of this, we take a bit of that, and start pulling this together. And so that image in the middle, as dreadful as it is, and nobody probably wants a home built like this, but when we're constructing grammar and pulling it together, it might be a bit messy, and there might be a few holes, there might be a few gaps, there might be too much of something, but actually students need to know that it's okay for it not to be perfect, and that we'll build this together. So that third image, yes, we can strive for this, of course we can, but they mustn't ever be fearful of grammar, of using grammar and grammar usage. But we also need to make sure that we push it and portray it in a really positive light. Pretty much, Meering and Norman used the analogy of bricks and mortar many years ago. For me, it stayed with me throughout my entire teaching career, and I still use this when I'm thinking about this with students. So just make it memorable, meaningful, but give them opportunities to unpick it, unbuild something, and then put it back together.
And that brings us really to thinking about then building bridges. And here we've got an example of building bridges with between languages. Can you guess the two languages here? Yes, the one on the right is German, yes. And the other one is Arabic, yes. And do you notice anything? We've color-coded it a little bit to help you. Now, of course, we have to remember that Arabic is read from right to left. We're reading in German from left to right. So think about that. Yes, excellent, Arena. Fantastic. Yeah, really well spotted. Mm-hmm. So our dear colleagues, Luma Hamid and Fatima Khaled, have supported us when we were thinking about bringing together these resources, and we really wanted to include different languages also outside of what the two of us could speak. And they have made us aware of the fact that actually the way that numbers are constructed in German and Arabic is similar. So here we've got 25, and we've got the Arabic Kamasatun Vaishrun, and they are constructed in the same way. So the way it is 25. Do you know what the number actually is?
Oh, wonderful.
Excellent, fantastic. Yeah. Yes. So the 5, you say the 5 first, although when you write it, the 5 is at the back, yeah, and the 2 is at the front. So this is also a wonderful way to get the learners to explore their home languages, to explore the parallels between different languages, and think about how they are constructed. So thank you for engaging in that. And it allows us then to also really foster a curiosity for languages, but also implementing the learners a sense of the languages that you speak are really valuable. So what you speak at home, in your community, the languages you speak in your school, the languages that you speak in your language lessons, they all are a vital part of you and your the way you're constructing your identity. And they are really a rich resource for you as a human being as well.
And also, I'd say the wonderful thing about this is, we talked about building bridges and using authentic resources, but think about your learners in the classroom as a resource. And I mean that with the greatest respect to them. If they have home heritage and community languages, then, what can you see? What parallels can you make? I'm not an Arabic speaker, and my German is quite limited, but this is a wonderful connection. And if students help you make that connection, we're just fortifying and showing them real life usage, isn't it? Just getting them, if someone said foster their brains, getting them to use their brains, but also it's not just us at the front being the expert. We're kind of giving them the opportunity and allowing them to share, which I think is really powerful. Learners learning from each other, and they might just get it, or like some of you have just gone, oh, this is great, this is so cool, and it is. And imagine how your learners feel if you do that. I think it's pretty cool too. But yes, sorry, Judith.
Yeah, no, I think it's wonderful, and thank you also for sharing in the chat, for example, also this idea that in Dutch it's actually it's constructed similarly. So these are really powerful moments, giving agency to the learners and empowering them, like Krista was just saying, to share also their knowledge and their expertise. So these moments are really precious.
So looking at authentic resources and thinking about grammar, you know, phonics is one of the pillars of languages education. We are all very aware of it, but not everybody teaches this, which is really interesting. Judith and I still find, but you know, there's a real opportunity here to not just focus on one thing, but actually to bring this together and through the context of literature, you know, an authentic context, an authentic piece. And one of our lovely colleagues helped us, Mr. Stephen Fawkes, helped us with this and came up with this idea and said that there is this beautiful, beautiful book by Georges Duhamel, but this sentence which really helps you unpick and have some fun with grammar here, sort of we're not just walking grammars, as Widdowson said, you know, we need to make sure that we don't just regurgitate it and spew it out, frankly, for want of a better phrase. And apologies to any of you that are eating your lunch as I say that, but really it's about, rather than just spewing out the grammar paradigm, to see it in context, to take it apart, to really work with it, get their hands, roll up their sleeves and get their hands all over this. Those days of full grammar paradigms, perhaps, and reciting things, you know, have gone. I experienced that as a learner here in the United Kingdom. Some of you might have done that too, but it's just really interesting how we can take this and do something really exciting with it. And we have here Cécile Chantonnet, elle chante encore ainsi, elle a toujours chanté. Such a beautiful 3 very short sentences, but this is, you know, we can focus on this from a phonics aspect, getting students to read it aloud, practice it for homework, you know, flip it, give it to them and say, I'd like you to focus on this. What are the rules related to this? But then also looking at a grammar context, and we've got it highlighted here, verbs. What are the verbs? What are the tenses? What is the verb? Is it the same verb? Why is there an accent ahead? There's lots and lots of things that we can do to just mine this tiny little text. And obviously it's 3 very short sentences from 1963. And if you want to move on to the next slide, Judith, if you have something as small as this, these authentic resources, you can create something like this. So from those 3 lines, you know, get students to identify the verbs, the tenses, maybe add some opinion and reason. You know, who is Cécile? Can they describe her? Can they read this aloud with confidence? How fast can they read it? And can you come up with any phonics rules for this? All of the things that are really important. So we're looking at phonics and also grammar in an authentic, from an authentic piece of literature. You know, can they identify the subject pronoun? Can they change it? You know, and depending on the age of your learners, you can do these things. Sometimes people believe that exposing students to authentic resources is too much, but there are ways in which we can do this. And that previous slide with those 3 very short sentences, if we've taught them the you know, how to say it aloud, saying it, it's almost a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? We've got Cécile, and if you're an English speaker, you might think it's a hard C, or is it a soft C? Do you pronounce that consonant T at the end? What are the rules? We've got an E with an accent on right at the very end. Chant or chant, is it? Well, no, it's not. And there are lots of really lovely and rich discussions that you can have, focusing on phonics and exploring that, but also looking at grammar from something very, very old, but actually still very useful. And like I say, it's just 3 short sentences. And once you've thought about what you can do with that, and if you go back to the next slide, I think there was about 20 ideas that Judith and I came up with, just because we thought, well, you know, how could we use this authentic text for phonics and grammar? And you can see there, you know, the question of, does Cécile like singing? Why did she sing? Past tense, you know, what did she do next? Again, looking at tenses. What are the infinitive of the verbs? There's so much here. You could spend lessons and lessons on it. And I know sometimes the curriculum and the way in which it's structured within the United Kingdom, I can't speak for other countries, but my knowledge is of the United Kingdom, time is finite. But equally, if we really want to drive home, and any curriculum obviously is going to circle back and reinforce certain things, they need knowledge of phonics and they need knowledge of grammar. They are going to have to do activities similar to this, with increasing confidence from Key Stage 2, Key Stage 3 through to Key Stage 4, and hopefully beyond into Key Stage 5. So an activity like this just helps you do that. And obviously presenting this to learners if they're younger is quite challenging. So you would obviously use these activities judiciously.
Yeah.
Back to you, Judith.
And it also shows you, so here the grapheme phoneme connection very strongly, and the power of verbs that drive these couple of sentences. And like Krista was saying, this attention to focus on form, like Long says, so this process of drawing attention to these different elements and building up their knowledge and their skills and understanding. And here we have that also in a similar way to nurture their skills and to nurture their independence, an example of how you can then also bring in dictionaries. So here we've covered up some of the words, and to allow the learners to go and look in the dictionary and find words. And through these finding of words, they might then realize, oh, there could be other words that might as well be able to fit into this place. So to become curious about words, using a dictionary, which is a wonderful and important skill to learn, thinking also perhaps about the etymological root of words, and making connections there, and making connections again with other languages, and also allowing them, as you can see here on the right, in very simple language to talk about grammar. So this is sometimes referred to as grammar gossip. So actually being able to speak in very simple terms, using a vocabulary though related to grammar to make their case. So yes, it's correct. No, it's not correct, because it's feminine, because it's masculine, because it's a verb, because it's an adjective. So you're getting them to really think about language and really raising their awareness of language in a context. This is from the film Pachamama. I'm not sure if you know this film, but it's a beautiful film that plays in this little country there at the bottom. If you have good geographical knowledge, you might spot it down there in South America. Can you think of what it might be? Anybody know if you're looking really, really closely?
Ecuador, we have.
Good idea. Good idea. Yes. Yeah, it's a very small map. I really invite you to have a look at this beautiful film, and with these two characters, and they speak. If you look at number 4, it gives you a little bit of a hint, because they speak Beep and they also speak Quechua. So that's another way to bring in some more knowledge to build intercultural understanding. So that might also give you a hint. Yes, fantastic. Peru. So it's also a way to explore languages that are spoken around the world, and their roots and their history.
And just to say, actually, if you've not used short film, you don't have to use a film. We're getting to the time, perhaps the festive season, and some people put on films, but actually create some language resources. Do your work. You can reach out to Judith, who is an incredible filmmaker. I'm going to say this because probably she won't, but does incredible work with BFI and indeed other institutions too, about really empowering learners and teachers, of course, to use short film in classrooms with learners to do activities like this. So it's not just they're watching something in Spanish, or they're watching something in French, or they're watching something in Italian or German. Actually, what they're doing is activities and this authentic resource. And it could be a 7-minute short film, it could be a 30-minute short film, depending, breaking it down and really driving. We talked about curriculums maybe spiraling, but actually just going back and revisiting those aspects. The spiral curriculum, really important. And resources like this, authentic resources, you may not necessarily get from a publisher, but it's about doing your homework, knowing your learners, and just finding those creative opportunities where we can really get to grips with grammar. And of course, this starts in Key Stage 2. I love this book. It's a beautiful book. Natalie Paris, lovely Natalingo, told me about this book, and I'd seen it in English with my friends' children, but hadn't then seen it in French. But she said, no, it is out there. And this beautiful, beautiful book is just incredible. There's a real opportunity to start this when we're reading aloud with our learners. any grammar work that we start to do with authentic resources can start in Key Stage 2. Should we zip on to the next slide? And here, and it's of course it's all moved, but we can have a gap fill activity here, and you can just see here there's just a couple of sentences once you've read the story, once you've explored this with learners, once you've done sounds, whatever it is that you've done with this, you can then have a look at grammar and gap fill, and why does this word go in here? Is it the correct word? They don't necessarily have to know all of the language, but it starts to just drive this home, this authentic use of resources. And actually, instead of just reading this beautiful story, getting learners to engage with it, because it's an authentic resource that's there. And you can see from the link there, I urge you to have a look at Anna's website. She's got some beautiful free resources for you to download, if you know, to go alongside the book, to do with well-being and the like, which is really beautiful too. Yes, Les Couleurs des Émotions, it's a beautiful book, absolutely beautiful. I would highly recommend it. Next slide, I think, Judith.
And thank you also so much in the chat. I've seen, Yandre, thank you so much for typing the name of the book. This is also a really important part of learning together, to share and to build community by sharing expertise with each other. So thank you so much. So this is an element that we came across in Noden's work, this idea of teaching learners what he calls the grammar of style. And he talks about the idea of brush strokes and of the learners as artists. And Krista and I just really loved that and found that such a beautiful imagery of the learners developing and becoming artists, and then creating their own masterpieces. So what is meant here, it's this idea of modeling of effective work through what Noden calls brush strokes. So giving learners effective tools and showing them step by step how to develop their work. And Noden here specifically talks about writing, but we feel that this is actually applicable across the skills and across the knowledge and understanding that learners build. And it's really about this systematic planning. So to avoid cognitive overload, to really build, but then also, as Krista was saying, to revisit elements. So it's really about careful sequencing, careful planning, and giving, as Noden said, giving them the effective tools through these brush strokes, and focusing really on the do's of grammar. So focusing on the positive, focusing on, like Krista was saying before, that mistakes are part of learning. We celebrate them because they push us on, they help us to develop further.
Yeah. Sorry, Judith, can you just flip back to les couleurs des monstres, sorry, the previous slide? You know, we're talking here about grammar, and actually if you're looking at an authentic text and we're talking about, you know, giving students confidence and doing this, you know, there are lots of different things we can discuss here to do with this. Mistakes are always welcomed because it creates such a rich opportunity, you know, but we can talk about lots of different things here, because what can we see in this text? I know we haven't got all day to talk about this, and Judith and I could talk about this for a long time, but, you know, we've got gender here, we've got first person, third person, we've got reflexives, we've got word order, we've got body parts, we've got punctuation, spelling, you know, spag, all of these things. And it is important to just show them this in another language. And of course, after Ce bouscule, that final line, we've got a space and an exclamation mark. So what's all that about? You know, why has that happened? Whereas actually on the end of the first line, there's the couleur and then the S and just a straight full stop. There's a real opportunity here to discuss grammar, the importance of grammar, how it changes, but also similarities too. Sorry, Judith.
And I think it's a wonderful way to actually exemplify this idea of the learners that are artists, and actually giving them the tools so that they can actually then say what they want to say. So that we actually give them these tools so they can develop their own understanding and really become independent learners throughout their lives. And that brings us very briefly to, as we're approaching the new year in not too long, not too far a distance, there's a beautiful poem by Gianni Rodari called L'anno nuovo, so the new year. And here we just wanted to exemplify the opportunity that we have with rhymes, with poems. Of course, previously we also talked about the importance of film, of literature, and also of music, of song. Now here, the opportunity that rhymes and poems and often songs as well feature is that they rhyme. Yeah, sarà metà, indovino, destino. And this aids memorization. It allows learners to move their knowledge from their short-term memory to the long-term memory through this playful engagement and through the rhyme that helps them memorize words. So this is beautifully recited also, and gives an opportunity to think about what the new year might bring. So a good introduction also to think about our wishes, our hopes, our dreams for the future. And then that brings me then also to another way of engagement. And I'd like to invite you just to briefly listen in. We're not going to listen to the whole thing, but I would like to ask you to just listen in. You might want to close your eyes and just think about 3 or 4 things that you can hear.
Du weißt, was es drin gibt?
Ja.
Die sind aber nicht für dich.
Okay, tell me, what could you hear? Don't worry if you don't speak German. Just think about what could you hear, what could you make out in terms of the sounds, the noises that you heard.
Ooh, footsteps, ducks quacking, someone steps, birds. Yes, nature outside. Very good, very good.
Excellent. Could anyone hear the footsteps where they were?
Oh, someone said, Andrea said snow.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah. So this is a great way. So this is one activity that I do for the BFI, for the Key Stage 4 educational events that we're hosting for German. And this is from the short film that is one of my absolute favorites in the world. And I know, Krista, you love this one as well. It's called Bango Vasil. It's a Bulgarian-German co-production. And it tells the story of this young girl here in the front that you can see, and a young boy that she meets. And it is in essence, though, the story of this Roma girl and how she brings to this community of children her traditions around New Year. So it's a wonderful way to open up the discussion about New Year, and that New Year happens at different times in different cultures, that we can celebrate the different traditions, that there are, again, similarities, but also differences, and that all of that enriches our world and our experiences. And it's a beautiful short film. And as you could see, even without knowing German, you could still pick out sounds and noises. And that really aids also listening skills to think. So what might I expect to hear? What am I hearing? It aids vocabulary skills, because you could get the learners then to look up these words. You could then discuss these different words. And then, of course, watch the clip to actually see what is happening. Again, bringing more vocabulary in and attuning them to also to the sounds and noises in their environment, which is one of the senses that is often quite a difficult one for them to grasp also in learning. They often feel quite fearful of doing a listening exercise, and this could sort of puts it in a context that is low stakes. and where they can explore. And of course, you can use here also, if you're a Germanist, you will see here we've got ich werde blah blah hören, so the future tense, so you can help them revise that. Then you can say, well, what did you hear? So you're revising the past tense as well, and engaging them in this lovely story of this Roma girl.
And talking of, you know, traditions, festivals, you know, we've said already, know your learners, open things out. You know, you can be the you know, the sage from the side or the guide from the side rather than the person just directing everything. You know, exploring traditions and festivals around the world, not just perhaps the ones that are usual, is a really wonderful thing. We've had Dia de los Muertos recently. We've got Chinese New Year in February. We've got Diwali this weekend, actually. Friends and colleagues are going to be celebrating. There may be learners in your community who absolutely just want to come and share. And there are schools here that I'm very aware of in Bristol who do some incredible work activating, encouraging their learners to explore traditions and festivals, and then looking at some similarities. But it's really looking at crafting, perhaps food and celebration, but weaving that into grammar and actually making those students come alive, perhaps in a way that maybe in a languages classroom they don't before, because they're sharing a bit of themselves. In some schools, some teachers don't like it. In schools that I work with and Judith work with, we absolutely want to make sure that all of those traditions and festivals, home heritage, community languages, those parallels are all brought to the fore and actually can be shared with all of us, because it helps us all learn. If we just pick up the Nadam Festival, for example, you know, we're looking at very traditional Mongolian culture, transitory lifestyle, you know, farming, lots of things like this, crafting, making, you know, nose to tail eating, which is unpalatable for some, I know, but equally wearing fur because you use the whole creature. Not necessarily something that we would necessarily talk about, but it is really important to kind of do this. We can draw parallels really nicely with grammar to, if it's French, German, Spanish, Italian, whatever language you're teaching, we can bring these similarities or indeed these differences, and it might just start create an opportunity for learners to just make a link that perhaps we wouldn't necessarily have found beforehand. And again, no disrespect to any publishers, but may not be in current publishing. I know it's getting better, but equally there's only a finite amount of space, and we don't have to do this every lesson, but just every so often when we do look at traditions and festivals and celebrations from around the world, not just the usual ones, perhaps in
It also offers an opportunity for us to link our classrooms with the home and with the wider community. So to also allow the learners to go and ask the people in your community, in your wider family, about these traditions. Be curious about the history that is part of your own history. And I think exploring these festivals, as Krista was saying, it also gives us an opportunity to travel even without being able. Sometimes it's not possible to travel abroad, to travel so far afield for different reasons. And so this allows us an opportunity into another world. In German, we have this word to say to watch television, which is to far see, fernsehen. But I think actually exploring traditions and festivals gives us this opportunity to really see further and explore further and bring these into our classrooms and really foster this intercultural understanding and intercultural awareness and the sense of community, that we as humans are a community, and we should really enjoy being a community.
Absolutely. Well, we know what it does to students when we tell them across Europe, Christmas celebrations, perhaps for those that do that, doesn't always happen in every culture and every country on the 25th of December. And some of them go, oh, what, how? But that's Christmas Day. Well, it is for you. And actually that otherness, difference, it just helps to break those barriers down, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that brings us really to the end of our talk, to just re-emphasize the importance of unlocking the power of intercultural understanding, unlocking the power of grammar, reinforcing, celebrating, and thinking about these ideas of really a systematic planning, blocking, spacing, interleaving, and really thinking about how we can engage and motivate our learners, and how this actually brings joy to us as well, as we are as teachers. I think this is one of the beautiful things about our profession. We are continuously learning. We are learning together. We're learning as a community. We're learning so much from our learners, and they give so much of knowledge to us, and just as much as we can impart, or actually perhaps more than we can impart on them. And that really brings us to the end.
Absolutely. And we've shown you and talked probably too much, or maybe not enough, about how you can use authentic resources, some of which we've shown you today. Graphic novels are brilliant, games and rhymes too. There is so much out there, but what else can you use? What do you use? You know, and if you want to link with Judith and I to discuss this further, then absolutely please do. I'm on Twitter/X, but you can find us both on LinkedIn. It will be a joy to continue that conversation with you, looking at grammar adventures and authentic resources.
And that just brings us really to the end. Both Krista and I are members of the Association for Language Learning, and we would like to warmly invite you, if you're not a member, to consider joining our language learning community. We've got here a QR code for you to sign up, and a discount code for you to get a 10% discount off membership during Language World Conference, if you would like to join our community. And just to flag up one specific event that is coming up, which is the Language World Conference in March. And just to finally say, if you've enjoyed our talk, if you've enjoyed what we've been exploring with you, you can have a look a bit more. Krista's just holding up so the book. So we've got a chapter. We are really delighted to share with you that we've got our chapter now published in A Practical Guide to Teaching Foreign Languages in the Secondary School. And it's also available online, so as an ebook, and we can share that, I'm sure, in a minute with you in the chat where that is hosted. And thank you so much. Please do reach out to us if we can support you in any way. And thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone. It's been an absolute joy and a pleasure. And thank you for coming to our session. It's always fun. And Judith and I love talking a lot about grammar and authentic resources, just because we get very excited about it. But yes, please do share any ideas that you want to with us. And if you've got any questions, we're here for a few more minutes, but some of you are probably zipping off to other sessions. So please do get in touch with us on LinkedIn or something like that. One of the social media platforms we're on, and we can make grammar more real and more fun, and have a real adventure with it rather than just be scared of it, I think.
And please do enjoy the rest of the amazing talks. I've had such a great time already this morning listening in. Please enjoy the rest of it all. On Saturday evening, there is also the Association for Language Learning is hosting a show and tell, so an opportunity for you to show your expertise. So if you'd like to join that, please do, and have a great rest of the language show. Such a superb event. And thank you so much for being so engaged and for sharing your expertise here with us today.
I'm just going to put, someone just very quickly asked what the code is. I'm just going to drop that in the chat, so then at least everyone can benefit. But we're very grateful to Language Show Live for having us. And there you go, there's the code. And you can use it on any type of membership. And if you are interested, then please do reach out to Judith and myself about that, but about grammar, about the association. And it'd be lovely to have you. Judith's doing a session tomorrow. I'm doing a session this afternoon. So we hope to see you all, and we'll come to your sessions too, hopefully.
Yes.
So have a wonderful rest of conference. Take care, everyone, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you to Jonathan for organizing this brilliant event. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.